Hey, Matt here. If you are running a newsletter business the way most people do, I've got some bad news. You're probably doomed to fail. And I know that might sound harsh, but after spending years helping newsletters like The Hustle grow to millions of subscribers and get acquired, and working with over 100 media companies and creators at my agency GrowLetter, I've watched the newsletter business model completely transform. And I've been behind the scenes at some of the largest and most successful newsletters. I've helped clients add over 10 million subscribers and over 100 million in sales. And I know this firsthand. So today I'm going to break down why the traditional newsletter ad only business model is dead. And more importantly, what you need to do to adapt and thrive in what I call newsletters 3.0. To understand where we're heading and what has changed, we need to look where we've been. So we need to look at the past. I want to break down the history and evolution of newsletter businesses for you and then explain what's next. So I call this phase from the year 2000 to 2012 newsletters 1.0, and it was very early. So really the first pioneer was a company called Daily Candy, and they really had the first at scale online email newsletter. They started with about 700 subscribers, friends and family, grew it to 2.5 million subscribers by 2008, and they were acquired for $125 million. And so there were a couple other people early on, but that really inspired the next wave, which happened in 2012 to 2022. Companies like The Skim, which grew to over 12 million subscribers, The Hustle, which reached 2.5 million subscribers before being acquired by HubSpot. Morning Brew grew to over 4 million subscribers and was acquired for $75 million. And these companies really crushed it. Now, more recently, I call this newsletters 2.5, really from 2022 to 2025. We saw a lot of niche focused newsletters do well, like The Peak, which is essentially Morning Brew for Canada. They sold for 3.75 million. Milk Road, which is kind of like The Hustle for crypto, was acquired for 7 figures in 10 months. And there's a lot of AI newsletters like Superhuman, The Rundown, The Neuron. Most of them started in 2023, and they've quickly built their newsletter audiences to 500,000 or even over a million people by summarizing the news in the trending AI space. Now, what made the model so successful from 2000 to 2022? It really comes down to these three key pillars. The first is content. All of these newsletters that I've talked about and many others that I'm not going to mention here, but are still amazing, they all created pretty fun, digestible content that was easy to read and usually under a 5 minute read time. They focused on summarization and curation. They made readers more smart and informed after reading a short daily newsletter. Then they mastered growth. They acquired subscribers at low cost, usually between 25 cents to $1.50 per subscriber. They use growth sources like referral programs, Facebook ads, co-registration, audience sharing, stuff like that. And they've built large audiences in the inbox. And then finally, monetization. The primary revenue source for newsletters like this was advertising. Typically, you would have 1 to 2 ads per newsletter, and you would send 5 newsletters per week. So that's a total of 20 to 40 ad spots per month. And most of these ad slots are like usually in the top 20 to 30% of the email, 50 to 100 words. They're called primary ads, and that model worked very well. So the unit economics of these businesses were really good. We have subscriber acquisition cost of about $1 or less, revenue per open of a nickel or 5 cents or more per every single email open. Usually these newsletters had open rates of 45 to 50%. The revenue per subscriber per month was about 50 cents or more. The payback period to make back the money that they invested into growth was 2 to 3 months, and the return on ad spend was 300 to 500%. When I worked at The Hustle, these numbers made scaling a no-brainer. Basically, the more we spent on paid acquisition, the more profitable and the faster that we grew. Now, here's the thing. Around 2022 to 2023, everything changed. The newsletter ad-only model that I just described started to break down due to 5 major changes. The first is more competition. Platforms and software tools like Substack, Beehive, and Kit made it very easy for anyone to start a newsletter, and the competition for both readers' attention and advertisers' budgets exploded. Then there was rising acquisition cost. Apple's app tracking transparency that happened in 2020 made it a lot harder to grow your newsletter effectively with Facebook ads. Costs went up a lot. Now, costs did improve later after Facebook adapted around 2022, 2023, but they're never going to be as low as they were back in 2015 to 2019 when newsletters like Morning Brew, we're acquiring subscribers for 25 to 50 cents from Facebook and Instagram. Number 3 is declining ad rates, especially newsletter ad rates. Basically, the macroeconomic environment shifted a lot in this time period. So interest rates went up, crypto and stocks went down, VC funding slowed down a ton, and then newsletter CPMs on their ads and really all digital advertising CPMs went down. So people used to be able to sell a newsletter ad for a $50 to $75 CPM. So that means for every 1,000 impressions, that newsletter makes $50 to $75. That dropped to $20, $30, sometimes even lower. And most of the publishers couldn't sell all the ad inventory that they had in every single newsletter. The fourth thing that changed was inbox tracking. So there's this new thing that Apple released. I guess not a new thing. It happened, I believe, in 2022 or 2021, called Apple Mail Privacy Protection. And this made tracking open rates completely unreliable. The challenge is open rates are the main metric that newsletters use to price and measure their advertising. Number 5 is AI. AI has essentially solved summarization. And one of the core value propositions of many of the newsletters that I just mentioned was summarization and curation. Now, most people aren't choosing to read AI content over newsletters yet, but it's a growing threat when 80% of your job as a newsletter publisher could be done by AI, at least if you focus on summarizing in your newsletter. So these changes devastated the model. You simply can't make a newsletter advertising only business work when you're selling ads at less than a $40 to $50 CPM, and that's your only revenue channel. Your cost to acquire subscribers exceeds $2 to $3. Your unique open rate with privacy protection is below 45%, and there's dozens of other similar newsletters that are competing for your readers' attention. This is why so many newsletter businesses, quote unquote, are struggling right now. Now, before you panic and think that I'm saying newsletters are dead, that is not all, okay? The title for this video might be a little bit misleading because email is still the best way to sell things. That hasn't changed at all. Email provides a direct audience relationship or an owned audience relationship that's better than all the other options out there. And newsletters are the best way to build trust and readership in the inbox so that the emails you send are more effective at driving revenue, engagement, etc. Now, the problem isn't newsletters themselves. It's how most newsletter advertising only businesses approach selling and building trust with an audience that's completely backwards. There are two fundamental problems right now. Newsletter ads are one of the worst ways to sell things and make money from your audience. It's a very poor way to market other people's products, your sponsors. It's also a very poor way to monetize your audience if that's the only way that you make money in this business. Now, newsletter ads can work to sell things for your sponsors, but not nearly as well as something like a dedicated email, custom content, webinars, lead generation, or a more comprehensive partnership that you could put together for sponsors. You got to keep in mind when you run any type of media or creator business that the only way that you make money from an audience is by selling products or services. That could be your own product or it could be your sponsor's product. And if the only revenue source that you have, newsletter ads, is not an effective way of fulfilling your customer's primary goal, which is selling their product, that's probably not a good business model. Okay, so that needs to change. The second thing is that daily newsletters with summarized content don't build trust anymore, and they aren't unique anymore. This content style that really Morning Brew, The Hustle, The Skim pioneered back in 2015, 2016 was really cool back then, but it's commonplace now. And most of the newsletters that have this type of summarized content, daily 5-minute newsletter, they all look identical and they're not really unique or standing out in the inbox. This brings us to what I call Newsletters 3.0. It's the next evolution of media and education businesses that are focused on owned audience channels like email. Here is what needs to change for your newsletter, your media business, or your creator business to win in this new model. The first thing is to ditch pure summarization, okay? Summarization and repurposing content to create a newsletter is not going to cut it anymore. You need to have original insights, indispensable content, and world-class human curation. So curation still matters because taste matters, but summarization is not that helpful. Now, this could mean publishing your newsletter less frequency. Maybe you have a 5-time-a-week newsletter. You might go down to 1 to 3 newsletters per week that are better and more insightful. The second thing is to diversify your revenue model. Newsletter advertising should not be your primary revenue source. A successful media business needs to be able to sell both your own product or service, which is direct revenue, and other companies' products or services, which are sponsorships. And you need to do that effectively. Number 3 is to master multiple owned audience channels, not just email. There are basically 5 different audience channels where you have direct audience relationship. Those are email, SMS, podcast, private communities, and then print. Now, you shouldn't try and do all these at once. That's a recipe for disaster. But only having one long term, like only email, is also very risky. You should try and master 2 of these channels and build a targeted, engaged audience there. If you have an audience of 100,000 plus people on 2 channels like email and podcast, for example, you have an incredible advantage. If you only have one, you're in a difficult position. The 4th thing you should do is become a marketing partner, not just a publisher. Instead of selling just ad space in your email newsletter, offer a comprehensive marketing partnership or campaign with things like this. You could offer webinars, sponsored social content, sponsored blog or email content, custom content and advertorials, lead generation where you create a lead magnet for your advertiser and you promote it and share the lead with them, dedicated marketing emails to segments of your list based off of your users' engagement or first-party data that you've collected about those users, and more. Now, these services are tricky to do at first, but after you do a couple and understand what your advertisers need, it gets a lot easier. And these allow you to sell bigger packages at higher rates and higher CPMs that will deliver better results for your sponsors. And when you do that, sponsors will pay you more, renew more, and work with you over the long run. The 5th thing you need to do is focus on one paid and organic acquisition channel. You need to master both paid and organic growth. You can't just have one in this current environment. Organic growth channels like YouTube, SEO, social media, etc., those are all algorithm dependent and they can go away in an instant. It's still important to have them. And then paid growth channels alone are not a reliable way to grow because you have to pay to get every new subscriber and customer. You really need to have both, okay? Paid is a challenge, but also it's beneficial because platforms like Facebook, Google, etc., have an incentive to make you successful with paid advertising, so it can be more consistent and scalable over the long run than organic growth. But you don't want to have one without the other. You want to find one paid channel that works and one organic channel that works and double down on those 2 things. Then you want to 10x LTV and don't obsess over reducing CAC. So LTV is subscriber lifetime value or customer lifetime value, and CAC is customer acquisition cost or subscriber acquisition cost. You should spend way more time focusing to increase your audience's lifetime value than trying to decrease the acquisition cost of acquiring a customer or acquiring a subscriber. Whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer or subscriber will win, and if you can do that, you will outcompete everyone else. Acquisition costs, no matter how hard we work, are always going to rise over time. The only way to build a sustainable media business is to make more money per subscriber, per customer, and per client. Now, there's 2 main ways you can increase your LTV. The first is what we've already talked about, becoming a marketing partner, not just an ad-supported publisher. You can sell ads at a much higher rate and have longer retention of your advertisers. The second way to 10x LTV is to build and sell a flagship product, have direct revenue. And that is number 7, develop a flagship product. If you know your audience and you're having conversations with your readers, you're studying your sponsors' results, and you're analyzing the replies you get over email, you can start to identify your audience's problems. And after doing that, you can create a product or a service that solves that problem and is also aligned with the category and the niche that you want to own. You're never going to unlock your audience's true revenue potential without a flagship product that you can sell to them successfully. Now, all this is difficult. It might take you 6 to 12 months to identify the problems and create and sell this product successfully, but it's worth it if you want to win. I recommend you try and keep this simple. So always sell before you build a product, okay? That means you should always do a pre-sell before you spend months or years building a product to sell. You may not even know if people want it until you actually do this pre-sale. I also recommend that you focus on media and digital style products that are simple to create and fulfill. Don't go out and try and build a SaaS business or build a service business or an agency. That becomes very complicated and it's an entirely different model than media or content. So focus on media content, media products rather, like digital products, events, courses, coaching, memberships, or hybrids of these things. Okay, that is what you should do. If you implement these principles and if you build a team with help from AI and automation that can run the operations effectively, you're going to create a valuable media asset that could eventually be acquired and or provide cash flow without you running the day-to-day operations. That's the ultimate goal of your newsletter, and this is how you're going to do it. Now, newsletters should still be a core part of your media asset. They are for many world-class media companies. Or you might want to start with a newsletter, build that, and then later on you may choose to focus on other direct audience relationship channels like podcast, SMS, community, etc. And your newsletter could become secondary. That's okay. The key is recognizing that the old newsletter advertising only model doesn't work, but newsletters themselves are still a powerful tool when they're used as a part of a more comprehensive and diversified media business model. I hope that breakdown helps. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel. And I'm also hosting a workshop on how to build a media asset that can run without you. And the link for that workshop will be down below, and it's totally free to attend, and you'll get access to all the recordings and slides. All right. Thanks for watching.